Okay then, so on the agenda today, I'm going to show you how I give my 4,000 pheasants water through an automatic gravity-fed system. So this IBC tank is filling up as we speak. I'm just going to put a bit of bleach in it in a moment and that'll sterilise the system. So, getting to how it works. Get a drinker to begin with. I'll explain how these work. So, this is obviously now filling. When this is filled, take this off and put on the outlet pipe, which is that one. Runs onto a T-piece because it feeds to it feeds two drinker lines. So, okay, so here's the first drinker. Move it out the way. Bit overgrown. So I'll explain the drinker first. So that's called a bell drinker. And you see that nipple there and that groove there. So basically how this works is there's a spring in there. Show you. So that's the valve. See how that's hollow? That's the valve. And there's also a spring there, if you can see that. So, how it works. This goes onto there. If I can get it on right. Get it on flush. Like so. Okay. Hang this up. I've only got 100 to do. And there's 100 drinkers in this pen in total. More the merrier. More drinkers you can have, the better. Less competition. So obviously, if you get a dominant cockbird on one drinker, you just push everything else off. So the more hoppers and drinkers you can have, the better. But obviously, that's when money's no object, which it always is. Okay, so now that's on. So what we have down here, if I can get to it and find it. Okay, yeah, there she is. So that there is what we call the saddle. And that is screwed into the main pipe via these two brackets. So that's screwed on, pushed on tight so it can't leak. Chick pipe comes off the main line, up to the drinker, goes into here, fills this up, and then when this starts filling, when this stem fills up, it opens the valve, that small spring that we saw. And then the water comes out of here, because this inside the drinker here is hollow, so it comes up and there's holes here, this black ribbon to stop it squirting out, so it trickles down. And then as this fills, the weight of the water pulls down. See how that's moving? Pulls down. And then that shuts it off. And obviously, as the birds drink and the water reduces, it raises up and then it fills again. So that's what I mean by gravity fed. So you can adjust how much they fill by twisting. So you twist it anti-clockwise, the more you want it to fill. And then if it's overfilling and leaking, then you want to shut that down and stop it filling so much. So then you twist it clockwise. And that's how they work. I'll cut to another video in a moment showing you filling it up once the system's set up. And I'll also try and explain how you drain the system as well. Because when you let that water go that header tank, there's it there in the system. So you've got to bleed it through. So we'll go through that as well. All these brambles want clearing, I know. Been a busy season. Jobs have been missed. The other thing to be aware of is there's any vegetation underneath, lifting it up and stopping the drinker from going right down with the weight, it won't shut itself off. It's just something to be aware of. Yeah. Anyway, I'll show you the rest in a moment. Okay then, so all the drinkers are now on, all 100 of them. As you can see, this one's full of water. Imagine a big pheasant's just drank it. You see now it's filling. And then when that reaches a certain level, which is set to by, like I say, rotating it either anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on how much water you want in there, it will then shut itself off. Ideally for pheasants, you only want a very, very shallow amount of water. The reason being is because when the pheasant passes disease, it's normally through the nasal cavity. So if they can dip their beak in deep water and submerge the nasal cavity, that's normally how disease is transmitted. So if you can keep it shallow, that's more preferential. Also, if it's shallow, when they put the foot on it, which they inevitably do, and try and flick it, there's less spillage and as a result, less wastage. So when the system was when the IBC was filled up, the reservoir, to get the air out of the drinker line, you can see how I've got this hose pipe attachment. I just stick an attachment in there, and then when the water runs hard and fast like so, and it's not spitting and glugging out air, shut it up, and then walk along the line, tipping your drinkers, emptying the water out, allowing them to fill and push any air that's left in the system still. So again, you know, another example, drinker, and that one's not filling, because the one up there is filling still. Another thing to be aware of, if you can, so you've only got, say, 20 drinkers in a smallish pheasant pen, and they're on metal stakes and are easily movable, when the ground around the drinker is fouled from birds standing there and water, if you can move the drinker just a couple of feet onto a bit of fresh ground, that's preferential. It's not really possible for me because I've got, you know, so many drinkers and so many birds. It's not viable. Other thing to be aware of, if you can as well, see how this drinker's fouled up with soil and mud. That's just from them dusting around it and standing in it. If you can once a day at least, walk around and just swirl your drinkers out and throw it. And that helps keep disease to a minimum. It's just good husbandry. Same with hoppers. I normally fill these hoppers once every 3 days, every 4 days, depending on how they're eating. And every time I fill the hoppers, I just move them just to a bit of fresh ground. The more you can do for the welfare of the bird is, you know, you can never do enough. Happy birds, happy life.